G'day, mate. Welcome to Factorio with me, JD. Now, whether you're new to this series or whether you've been watching the whole time, this is a recap episode. We're going to cover everything that's happened so far, everything that's happening in the future. The most important thing you need to know about this series is we're building a rocket per minute base. So we're not going for science, which was something new that came out in 15 and 16, and trying to get as many science packs per minute. We're going old school back to 12, 13, and 14, where the goal was to get as many rockets off the ground in a minute. Now, usually bases back then were like 1, 2, maybe 5 rockets per minute would be really, really pushing it. But generally sort of that 1 to 3 sort of area. We're going to go big. We're building a module at the moment that does 5 rockets per minute. And then, providing we don't crash the UPS, which we shouldn't, we're going to copy and paste that a few times and probably go for around about the 20 mark. So yeah, this is a base tour. We're going to go over the base, what's happened so far, what's happening in the future. I'm doing a little bit of a recap episode because we're 40 episodes in, which seems like a good time to stop and bring people up to speed if you're new to the series. So if you're new, welcome. Where do we start? So we start in our starter patch. This is our starter stone, what's left of our starter iron, our starter coal. Iron is being fed into the smelters as fast as possible. It's being priority fed in. On top of that, we have trains, sort of making sure things are kept nice and full. I do have another little patch over here, little patch at 6.2 million, which, as you can see, had been filled with speed modules everywhere because I just want the ore gone. And we're feeding that into the smelters as well. Again, it's prioritized over the train deliveries. We also have... Oh, you've stopped doing... Hang on. I've got to get rid of these. This guy stopped doing iron, finally. We've got a copy here doing the exact same thing. It's speed module and priority as well, because we just want this copper gone. Coal, again, speed modules. We're trying to get rid of the coal as well, so all the speed modules as well. We just want it out of our way at this point. Stone, unfortunately, because we're not really building a science pack base, we're not really using the stone. So I started boxing it thinking there'd only be a little bit. I didn't actually stop and think about how much, like 3 or 4 million was. So we've got a couple of boxes of stone. As this base does do science, it is going to get used up ever so slowly. I think the answer might be we just might concrete the world because that uses brick fairly quickly. Anyway, we've got our smelters here. We have your standard row of 4 iron, 4 copper. I do have stone brick up the top, which is double length, to give us a full lane of brick, potentially if we want it. As you can see, it's not really moving terribly fast. We've got our uranium right at the top. We are completely backed up with our shiny rocks at 4.8 thousand, 235? Yeah, 235. Same with nuclear fuel. Normally by now I would actually have my smelters running on nuclear fuel or solid fuel or rocket fuel, anything other than coal. But because I'm trying to get rid of this coal, we're priority feeding it in and getting rid of the coal as fast as possible. We've got a steel down here. It is 5 steel builds, which are full length for a normal smelter, giving you 1/5 of a belt of steel. And as you can see, with 5 of them, I technically have a whole belt's worth of steel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So I've got 5 of them. We've technically got a full belt's worth of steel, and we're using it as fast as we can. There are definitely times when the base kicks up a notch, and we go through the whole 5 belts. There are other times not so much. We go through the whole 5 smelters worth, other times not so much. We have a fairly ordinary, semi-tidy bus layout. It's nothing special. We have, because we use New Game Plus, which let us take our inventory and our tech from the last game into this one. And I will link up in the top right-hand corner a link to the last playlist. So if you're new to Factorio and you found this video, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Factorio. I just done a tutorial style series, which is something I do every single time a new version of Factorio comes out. I go back and do a tutorial style. So we finished that map on an island, cleared off all the biters, finished the game, and then I used the mod New Game Plus to carry my tech and my inventory across to a new planet. So we're on a new planet, which is no longer an island, as you can guess, and is slightly thicker with the biters. They're a little bit more friendly. They're a little bit larger. If you come down here, they're pretty much a solid red at one stage. So plenty more biters, plenty more things to play with, but it meant because I had my inventory with me, I brought a lot of modules with me to speed up the base. Along with, I brought steel smelters. So in this particular game, I never went through the stone furnace stage. We went straight to red belt and steel furnaces. So we jumped through that early game very, very quickly. As always, if you're interested in this series, there is a playlist linked right at the end in the end cards. And you can see how we started and how we got here. Anyway, back to the builds. We've got gears. Again, we're using modules. We're using beacons. It means with the mod max rate calculator, we can bring this up. And you can see if these were running at full speed, that's if, they're not going to because they're slightly overbuilt, I could bring in 88 iron and get out 61 gears because of the extra 40% productivity in the prod mods, productivity modules inside the assemblers. So rather than going for a 2 iron to 1 gear, I'm actually on about a 1.5 iron to 1 gear ratio, which is a lot better, saves me a lot of resources in the long run. So yeah, we've got our gears running flat out. We've got our green circuits, same story. I've used productivity modules and beacons to speed them up and make them run as fast as possible. This for the 2 blue belts of resources in, so we're bringing about 90 iron and 90 copper in. We're actually making 123 green circuits out. So we're actually making 4 full red belts of green circuits out for 2 blue belts worth of resources in. So 2 iron, 2 copper. Much better ratio than normal, again, because of those productivity modules. We have our little garage, workshop, mall, whatever you want to call it. I'm actually becoming a real fan of the workshop. So this has everything. It has our belt production. It has our inserter production, miners, assemblers, repair packs, steel furnaces, gun turrets, power poles, both medium and large, pipe production. We've got our robots, chemical plants, oil refineries, more pipes, along with our pump jacks. This one's really designed for a Megabase, so it has a lot of things that I wouldn't normally build. But I'm deciding, because we're going to go for a Megabase, I'm definitely going to build. Do you not have an output? Has it really taken me all this time to realize you don't have an output? Okay, later JD problem. We've got rail track, uncapped, just 4.8k rail. I'm probably going to use it all. Signals, substations, all the important chests. So requester, provider, storage, and buffer chest. Active providers, if I want them, I handcraft them. Can I just clear my inventory at the same time? We've got trains, a couple of combinators. Well, the whatever combinator is, decider combinator, because I am using decider combinators. There's pumps. I got pumps the second time because I never bothered putting a. Definitely a later JD problem because that's some thick spaghetti and. That's actually fixed really easily. Never mind. We're going to turn off our personal robots. We're going to cut that, and I'm going to put it there instead. I thought I automated them earlier. We've got beacons. This has got 5 output boxes, and they're all uncapped because I know for a fact I'm going to use every single beacon I can possibly build. So we have a lot in storage, but if you roll across to one of our trains that we'll get to later, some carriages have like 300 beacons in it. So that's almost the whole chest just loaded straight into a train. We've got nuclear, artillery, heat pipes, all the sort of nuclear build stuff, along with artillery wagons down the bottom. We have our lovely bright green ammo, really good for killing biters. We have our standard ammo build. Again, this is used for military science later on down the track. We have a coal patch that I couldn't quite bring myself to build over at this stage. So I put miners on it, and I've regretted it ever since because it's been in the way of the bus and in the way of the builds for a long time. On the upside, it means our plastic will probably not run out of coal anytime soon, because as you can see, it just doesn't move. We're not using coal. Our starter coal over here that we've speed and speed moduled and speed beacon to hell is actually providing all the coal for all our plastic and all our grenades, and everything is still at this stage. We've got a radar build. Now that is going on a belt, and it's going down and fitting our artillery build, our artillery shell build, which I'll go to later on. We've got our red circuit build, again, because of the extensive use of productivity modules. They're super efficient. I'm actually bringing in a belt of plastic plus a belt of green circuits. We're merging the two together to run into these two builds, and then into these two builds, and then into these two builds. We're going for a lot of red circuits per minute. You can see over here on the left, this is our per minute production and our per minute draw. So we're doing 2.4 red circuit, or 2.4 thousand red circuits per minute. We've got blue circuits here, again, like 400 in, 400 out. As we scroll down, you can see that, the bottom build's definitely busy working. But as we get up here to the top build, these guys are idle. The belts are backed up. We're actually producing stuff so fast that, they can't output. And yes, they're outputting on this side, and it's going underground and feeding in there. It was an interesting build to come up with. If you want to look at compact builds, really look at the playlist. Look for the one where I mentioned blue circuits. The title will be fairly obvious. This was a real headache of a build to go through and make, but personally I found it really interesting to do, to try and fit it into an 8/8 beacon setup and actually get everything in the middle with just the pipe on the outside. So yeah, we've got our blue, we've got lasers, because I know we're going to need a lot of lasers. We've got a lot of biters we've got to keep at bay. So after we got those up and running, we needed robots up and running. So we got engines into electric engines into robot frames. And as you can see, we've made, 4,000 construction robots and 1,100 Logi robots. We needed solar power, of course, because at the stage of early game, I didn't actually have nuclear up and running. Had to go find the uranium, process the uranium, get enough uranium together to make the shiny rocks to then make nuclear power. But we actually come to the main... So we built a whole bunch of solar panels. We've got a whole solar farm out here to the right. We are doing, 26,000 solar panels. So it's plenty enough to keep most bases up and running. 1.3 gigawatt is nothing to sneeze at. But we got to the main purpose of this base. So this base is really a kickstart base. It's a kickstart base to go into a gigabase. And the most important thing you need when you're building a megabase or a gigabase is modules. So on our bus system, and it's one of the things that I do like about a bus system, we're using priority splitters to make sure that we bring everything off this belt, and then we're moving all the items down to the next belt. And you can see that best up here at copper. You can see that the belts just go dry as they move through the build. It starts off at 4 full red belts, and as they move through, all the materials keep moving down to this bottom belt. Copper is definitely our shortfall currently. And you can see, at this point, there's not a lot of copper left. And that's before we've even got to the sciences. But the main point of this base was to make as many modules as possible. So it has a full speed module build and a full productivity module build. And if we bring over Max Rate Calculator with Love a Little More, just does all the maths for you and works out the ratios. So on a per minute basis, we're making 7.5 speed modules and 7.5 productivity modules, because the two builds are identical, just with slightly different, just with the different recipes. So these run flat out, and these chew up pretty much every circuit the base makes. I did also have another speed module build, but I didn't have quite enough resources to keep it running and keep science running at the time. So I cut the belt, and we've left it at that. At this stage, I am actually thinking about moving it to the end of the bus. So if there's any excess resources left over, which sometimes there will be, most of the time there won't be, it means this build can keep running and make us more speed modules. We have already, productivity, all time. No, keep scrolling. 10,000 speed modules being made and 5,000 productivity modules already made. And if we check the boxes, there's 90 in there and 600 in there and 900 in there. We've pretty much used them all, and we haven't even started getting into launching a couple of rockets per minute. So continuing down the bus, we have red science, green science, military. This is using the ammo build from earlier, just brought along the bus to feed the military build. We are using productivity modules. It does slow down these builds, and I'm not really using beacons around them because I'm not really worried about what speed they run at. We're really at the point this far down the bus where we're poor. So by using the productivity modules, I'm still attaining, well, you can see it here, about, well, we're only making 22 sites per minute, but we can consume up to 33, 40 per minute. But the build actually makes 40 sites. All the builds make 40 sites per minute, so a little bit less than 1 per second, but look pretty standard for any base that's built with level 2 assemblers. Level 2 assemblers are around about 46 per second when built, you know, on a base rate of 1. So a little bit slower than I'd like, but fast enough that science ticks over. You can see on our tech tree, we started with all the tech tree except infinite science. So we had to actually research Space Science Pack. And we've already got the Artillary Bombardment remote, which was a mod that I've added with the new game. Along with, we've already ticked off a couple of projectile damages, a couple of energy weapon damages, some robot speed like 8, 9, 10 have already been ticked off. No, 10's in the queue. So we've done a lot of research already for a science that's not terribly fast, but it just ticks over quietly in the background, and we can sort of ignore it and just accept that science is running. We've got blue science here, which is using the engine build from earlier on in the bus for robot frames, along with solid fuel from way over at the oil. We'll get to the oil later. We've got our train track build for our purple science. This is completely self-contained. I could have either built one, or taken them from the make everything and shipped them all the way over here on a belt. But honestly, it was just easier just to have an own dedicated build. And with a couple of productivity modules in the iron stick machine, it cuts down on the iron usage, and a single speed module 3 gives us the perfect ratio to run these guys at full speed. So actually, I think we're producing rail. Yeah, we're producing rail slightly too fast, and iron sticks slightly too slow. But it all equals out in the wash. Finally, we've got our utility sites. Yeah, utility sites, which is fed with the low distance structures, the robot frames we made way back there, along with the blue circuits. And it outputs quite happily as well. The low density structures is a massive build because it didn't bother with speed modules. We just use the productivity modules. We accept the 40% loss in crafting speed, so these run really slowly. But they do the job. They get the build done. Excess goes into a box for both, the rocket, which is like literally right here, along with the workshop can request them in for stuff like power armor, legs. What else? All the new things that got added. Power armor, shields, portable fusion reactors, batteries, fusion defense, roboports, all that sort of stuff. So they're whacked in a box so we can request them back out. Last thing we have is a speed module 1 to 2 rocket control units. And again, we can see that this machine is actually too fast for these guys, purely because the productivity modules are slowing them down so much. I can't actually get beacons into this build. I wouldn't mind to get beacons in to sort of level out the speeds. But frankly, look, we're so poor that I really need to use the advantage that productivity modules give us. Finally, we get down here to our rocket build, which of course needs our rocket build. Our nuclear build, which needs rocket control units, and rocket control units are actually the thing that's slowing us down the most from launching rockets. Now, in saying that, we are launching rockets at a fine old rate. It's not as fast as I'd like, but it is definitely fast enough. There's 500 in the chest, and we have 2 labs. That's right, just 2 labs running flat out. Now, the two labs do have a speed of 2,245%. Note, there are no mods involved. It is purely the productivity modules actually slow them down. We've got all the lab research speeds, which then speed them up. And then we've beaconed the crap out of them. As you can see, they are surrounded with all 12 beacons, all affecting this poor little lab. So we've got a number of effect sources on the right-hand side. It's 14, being 12 from the beacons and 2 from the actual productivity modules on the inside, which means they fly through research. And it means that these two guys are doing 45 packs per minute. And you got to remember, our builds do 42. So 2 labs are using up all of our science. They're actually a little bit faster than our science. So the belts do get short every now and then we wait for rocket launches. It all self-balances. It's one of the joys of a bus. As I said, I am considering moving this speed module build right to the end of the bus. So as you can see right now, we have excess red circuits, excess green circuits, excess blue circuits. If I put that build right at the end of the bus, it would only get whatever's left over. So if there is extra circuits left over, it would get some more. It's something I consider. Haven't made a decision one way or another. Our oil build is all the way down here. And we're just going to have to go for a quick jaunt across to have a look-see. It's yet another coal patch. There's a copper patch I just built straight over. I was done with it. Just go away. Because we came from an existing map, we do have steam power to get us up and running to start with. But rather than bringing over good old steam engines, I brought over steam turbines. Main reason is one steam turbine at 165 degree steam, which is what a normal boiler outputs. One turbine produces as much power as 2 steam engines because of the lower temperature. Obviously, as you can see there, they normally output 5.8 megawatts and have a maximum temperature of 500 degrees. These guys have a maximum temperature of 165 degrees. That's why you can't use a steam engine on a nuclear build, but you can use a steam turbine on a normal steam boiler build. So I actually brought in turbines. I brought in like 30 or 40. 10, 20, 30. 30 it seems. Well, actually, they'd stack into 40, 80, 120. Maybe I brought in 120. I don't know. I brought in some to get our power up and running. These were really, really effective to get us up and running to start with. So we're going to have our rocket fuel build with the rest of the solid fuel being passed up to blue science. This is our coal belt from our starter base, which, as you can see, is priority fed into this lane, which then comes down here and is priority fed in again, because I really want it gone. It's yet another coal patch. Finally, we've got our lovely little oil refinery build. So we've got lubricant, again, productivity module, and speed beacon as best as possible. There's a little bit of pipe spaghetti going on here, so I couldn't get quite full coverage. In fact, that speed beacon's doing absolutely nothing, except using power. So not quite full coverage, but like we did really, really close. I could move pipes and stuff, but frankly, I can't be bothered. We do have the oil refinery, same story. We've got productivity modules. No. I obviously forgot to put productivity modules in some of these. There we go. We just made the base even more efficient. So we've got productivity modules in these guys. And they're pumping out like the 3 fluids as fast as possible. We are cracking our heavy to our light. Again, productivity modules, speed beacons. You can see that for the 40 they bring in to give us 30 with an extra 30% productivity, it actually means that we'll run a max rate calculator. We're almost breaking even. You know, it's no longer that 25% loss when you go from heavy to light. It's a lot lower because those productivity modules. So we've got, again, productivity modules to get the most out of our heavy oil into our light oil. We're doing solid fuel, again, productivity modules everywhere we possibly can. We've got our productivity modules, again, to go from our light oil down to our petroleum. Again, you've got that it's normally a 30% loss. In our case, we're so close to breaking even, it's not funny. So, yeah, much less loss when you're using productivity modules because of that extra 30% productivity. Again, you're missing modules. How bad, Jetty. Bad, Jetty. Brings us on to our plastic build. Again, productivity modules, speed beacons the whole way. This little build here is actually outputting 2 whole fully compressed belts of plastic. Which seems pretty insane compared to how big most plastic builds end up getting. To get 2 full blue belts out. But with productivity modules and speed beacons, things really fly along. There's a research finished. Last of the coal comes down here to actually make explosives. Because I'm making explosives slightly larger scale than you normally expect. We've got our acid build over here, again with batteries, productivity modules, speed beacons through the roof. We have our explosives coming along to make cannon shells en masse. And as you can see, I've added speed modules because, you know, faster is always better. And they come over here and they meet our artillery shells, which then go into our artillery shell storage, which then the bots can pick up and fly. I won't actually walk all the way over there. And they can fly over to our Kraken, which, as you can see from the cargo contents of 10,000 artillery shells, has like 100 wagons on it. 100 artillery wagons. We'll just run a quick decon planner over the whole thing. 100 artillery wagons, which are really good for pummeling biters out of existence. The little mod I showed earlier with the artillery bombardment leads to, give it a minute. Shh, you can hear them in the background. Bye, biters! It just carpet bombs whole areas. So yeah, this is why I'm sort of making artillery shells on a little bit of a massive scale. And again, if I'm quiet, you'll hear it in the background. So yeah, it just clears all the neighbors out. So these big death patches down here, not worried about. But yeah, you can see straight away the bots are flat out 1,000 miles an hour to go pick up as many artillery shells as possible to go reload the poor train. If we run up here and go grab an engineer, I can't get that side of the lake. Grab an engineering train. We can go have a look at the pista de resistance of the base so far, which is the start of our Megabase. And as you can see, I've got the overlay on show logistics robots, so I can see where logistics bots are flying around the map. As you can see, the base is silent. It is running full speed, but it's running mainly on belts. Logibots really don't do much apart from do this small trip here for low density structures and move nuclear fuel around to refill the trains and artillery shells. That's really about it. And nuclear fuel cells to run the actual reactors. And we have 8 reactors there and another 8 reactors there and another 4 reactors there. We've got a little bit of nuclear power. For this, which is actually not on at this stage. This is still in the planning concept, or planning stages, to make 5 rockets per minute. So we've actually been working backward from the actual rocket from the rocket all the way back to the actual smelters. So we've got oil. This is enough oil processing to do 5 rockets per minute. Might not look that big, but when you consider that, the petroleum, I have 4 dedicated pipes of petroleum that then need to go into these tanks and be pushed through with pumps to then unload into our plastic build, which outputs... good question, JD. 35? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 belts of plastic. out of this particular build. We've got our low density structures over here, which is actually half the size it needs to be. I need to double it over to our east. I started building and didn't realize that we'd run into the train tracks. We're sort of building this on, what works best in regards to the oil placement, which of course meant after oil was built, cracking was popped up here. We needed plastic, so plastic got popped right here, which then led to low density structures because they need a lot of plastic. And it also led to our rocket fuel build. So this is our rocket fuel build. It does take up like more than a screen. Again, it's got 1, 2, 3 dedicated pipes pushed on with pumps to make sure we have the throughput we need to get all the light oil being produced, off the main line into this one machine. It outputs into 2 assemblers, which again, productivity module. Everything that can have productivity modules does have productivity modules, and as much beacon coverage as I can get it. And then we're outputting all our rocket fuel, which all joins up into 1.4 belts of rocket fuel. Yeah, that's just a little bit. So yeah, this is where we're up to in the base. We still have, we've got low density structures, we've got rocket fuel. So we still need to, we've got a lot of the petroleum products done. We still need to make our rocket control units, which is going to need processing units, of course. It's also going to need advanced circuits and normal circuits, which is going to need our plastic that then needs somewhere to go. Plus, on top of that, we still need to make our steel and our copper smelters for our low density structures. And then, of course, we're going to need a crap ton of iron and a crap ton of copper for our advanced circuit builds. Mainly the electronic circuits. In fact, it is all up. We're talking an insane, for 5 rockets per minute, we're talking almost 40 belts of iron, and we are talking over 50 belts of copper to just get one of these things producing 5 rockets per minute. So that's where we're up to. I invite you to swing by for next episode. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button. Please go click the subscribe button. Click the little bell if you want to get the notifications. Otherwise, swing back every day because every single day a new episode comes out. At the same time, if you really want, you can look at the playlists, both at the end of this video, which will give you the playlist for this whole season, along with the cards up in the top right-hand corner. They've popped up through this video to show you the earlier tutorial series, which is where we all started, which is where we made the jump to this world with what tech we brought with us. I think that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed this little, I wouldn't say short, because it's not a little base. This base tour, I guess, catch-up episode, whatever you want to call it. As always, leave me your thoughts down in the comment section. Tell me what the hell I've screwed up already, because I'm guaranteeing I've screwed up something. And I will see you guys in tomorrow's episode. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.